Hey, welcome to Car Mechanical. Today guys, I'm going to be introducing to you my household's new car. So I'm driving it right now, and if you haven't already noticed from the description and the title and the background, it's a little bit pink. It's not my usual type of car. In fact, it's not really my car at all. I've bought this for my wife. It's a 2002 Honda Jazz. It's got a 1.4 litre engine. It's got a few issues, so I'm going to go into those, some in this video and further in the fixing. But basically my wife's learning to drive at the moment, and we wanted to get a car that was similar to what she's learning in. So she's learning in a Toyota Yaris, so we wanted to make sure that whatever car that she has to learn in has similar controls. So the indicators on the left hand side of the steering wheel, it's got a similar pattern on the gearbox apart from the reverse. And the light control is on the left hand side of the steering wheel as well, because in my Audi the light control is actually down here. And what we want to replicate is that when my wife is learning in this car with me, that she has a similar control layout to what she'll be using in her instructor's car, and there's going to be no confusion in having to swap hands for any of the controls. The only slight difference is that the reverse is in a slightly different place, and that's not too much of a problem. Hopefully maybe we just avoid reversing manoeuvres. So what is the car? So the car is a Honda Jazz. It does have some issues. You might be able to hear some of them now. If not, I'll get them in some different clips. The gearbox is on its way out. The bearings in Honda Jazzes are known to go, and I think this one's had it. So what I think the plan to be is going to be replacing the gearbox with a remanufactured one. I'm seeing those on eBay as swap units for 175 to 250 pounds. You take your gearbox off, you take it in, you swap it over, and you've got a remanufactured gearbox with anything between 6 and 12 months warranty. So the plan is that we can go and swap that over, and that's going to get rid of 90% of the issues. The other issue, this sounds like a turbo car that's putting out 20 pounds of boost like my Audi, but that's a 2.5 litre tuned diesel. This has no turbo whatsoever. What this does have an issue of is that the exhaust is broken. I think it's pre-cat because of the car's quite down on power. It doesn't want to rev much over 3,000 RPM unless you really let it wind out. And you know, part of the issue that I think is happening, I think that the exhaust split is before the O2 sensor, and I think that's messing with the amount of power that it's been able to put down. So I think it's going a bit lean, and maybe going into some kind of safety mode. But if we go into the pros and cons of the car, the pros, I paid £300 for the car. The advert was for £300. I could have paid less for it, but to be honest, apart from the mechanical issues, the car's in pretty nice order. I've done a walk around, so I've hopefully shown that to you. It's got reasonable tyres. It's got good, the handling's pretty good. There's maybe one or two suspension issues, like maybe some drop links or maybe some bushings that need replacing. But on the whole, it kind of feels okay. It starts on the button. There's absolutely zero styling issues whatsoever. There's no warning lights on the dash, so when it comes to the MOT test, I've got absolutely no concerns that they're going to look at it and say it doesn't have anything to have there. The dash is pretty basic, but one of the things it had that I was quite happy with, it's got a rev tack. Some cars don't have that, and I wanted my wife to be able to get sort of the understanding of speed and revs and when changing gear and everything. And if some of the basic cars out there don't have that, that was a concern. You know, I'd rather start on an even footing there. So with the dash cluster, we literally got RPM, we've got speedo, and we've got the tank and how many miles the car's done. Not the ability to reset how many miles is done per tank, literally how many miles the car's done. Speaking of which, it's on 156,000 miles, so it's seen a fair amount of miles on it. Again, it's a £300 car. I'm expecting it's going to cost me about the same amount of money again to get the car fully sorted, perhaps a bit more, because of it's going to need a service. It's going to need a new gearbox. It's going to need a few bits and pieces. The exhaust might be weldable, maybe it needs replacing. The tyres seem to be okay. A few bits that need sorting, for example, one thing is the seat. This seat I'm in now, the bolster is ripped. Now we do have seat covers on them. They came with it, but the seat covers as well have seen better days, so not entirely sure what route we'll be going with everything on there. And you might have noticed some of the couple of toys and stuff that are sitting around the car. So both me and my wife absolutely love Japan. and my wife is quite into a series called Osomatsu-San, and Todomatsu is one of her favourite characters, and we're going to be calling this car the Totty Wagon. So some of the things that we're going to be doing with the car is we're going to be making some changes to it. We're going to fix some of the outside issues, but some of them can't be immensely fixed on the kind of budget we're at. This is a fairly unique colour. It's actually what won us over for buying the car, because we could have maybe got a car with less issues for £400, but it would have been pretty boring. So what we're hoping to do is we're going to be making it a bit Itasha-like. So it's going to have vinyls on the outside, which will be strategically placed to cover up some of the paintwork issues. However, some of those paintwork issues are that bad that they're going to need a bit of work just to bring the paint up to level, and there's some rust issues, and you can't ever really repair rust. You can kind of delay the onset of how bad the effect's going to be unless you cut out the rust and weld in new bits. That's not the level I'm at with my DIY. I've dealt with rust before, and you can kind of give yourself a year, maybe two. It depends on the quality of stuff that you're using, but you can never deal with it too much. But luckily, it's just that passenger side rear door anyway, driver side rear passenger door. So the other pros on this, all of the windows work. So literally all of the electrics apart from the stereo work. So the only thing with stereo, it's a bit random. You turn it on and then nothing happens, and then if you're driving along, it comes on at full volume on whatever radio station has been tuned in. Really not worried about that. For now, whilst it's been used as a learner car, the radio doesn't need to be on. And down the line, we can figure out whether we need to fix the head unit, replace it, do something custom. It's not too big of a worry. Going back to the gearbox issue, the car's actually usable. It's a little bit tougher a learner to have to manage a clutch and a gearbox that's not 100%, but hopefully within the next, at least within a month, I want to turn this around pretty quickly to get it 100%, because the MOT is at the end of January anyway. It will have the new gearbox in, which will make it easier, because it means wife's clutch control will become easier. She's learning in a Yaris at the moment, and she can fully control that on just the clutch without having to use any throttle or gas, whichever term you want to use for that pedal. Whereas in this, there's a bit of overlap, and it is harder to be smooth. But I see the benefit that if she can learn to be smooth in this, she'll be smooth in any car. And especially once the gearbox is replaced, it would take out some of that kind of handicap. So the plans with this car, to recap, the gearbox is going to get replaced. We're going to sort out some things like the headlights are cloudy. I'll put a quick image of that up on now, or a quick video. The exhaust needs repairing. It's obvious that there's some suspension or bushing or link issues, so we're going to find out what that is and to replace that. We're going to tidy it up, so new seat covers, maybe new seats. The steering wheel's seen better days. Oh yeah, the gear knob. The gear knob is completely wrong. It's got speeds 1 to 5 and 2 reverses on it, so that threw me when I first got into it. Someone's replaced the gear knob at some point with the wrong kind of gear knob, and the gator's all torn on that, so we'll sort that issue out. I've gone off on a tangent, but yeah, basically we're going to be sorting up the exterior of the car, and the entire budget for the car is going to be well under £1,000 to get it sorted, which I think is not too bad for a first car. The insurance on it isn't really that bad at all. Tax wise, it's in the lower of the tax brackets for the year, so it's about £130 I think. It's between £10 and £12 a month for tax, that's fine. The other thing that'll be interesting to go into, the engine on the layout of this car's really, really roomy, and part of the reason for that is that Honda put the engine as far forward as possible. So it's a 1.4 litre engine, but it's like 1339cc, so it's not even like the 1350 which ticks it up, but Honda have called it a 1.4 litre. Makes 82 horsepower. I said it's down on power at the moment, so hopefully fixing the exhaust fixes that. It actually uses 8 spark plugs for its 4-cylinder engine, so it uses twin plugs for a full clean burn. It's quite a fuel efficient car, and I was looking into the engine and really surprised about the amount of things that Honda did to get this car up to the standard that it is. So I might do a video on that at some point, because of it's kind of interesting that for an econo box that Honda made this to be, they put a hell of a lot of effort into the engine. So it's just kind of interesting to have that kind of unique car. But where we're hoping to get this to, it's never going to be a powerhouse. I don't think we're going to do anything too mad to it. You never know, down the line, you might want coilovers for it, which are ridiculous in price. For my Audi A4, I can get a set of the cheapest coilovers for £150, which will be better than blown suspension. The cheapest set of coilovers for this are £550, and they go up and up and up in price. They get really expensive. I'm just parking as we're driving along here. So yeah, maybe one of the things when I'm out in Japan later, or early next year and later next year, is go into some of the car shops and keep an eye out for some Honda Jazz coilovers in the second-hand section, because you're just not going to find them on UK eBay or anything similar. Maybe I'll find it on a club. So yeah, maybe it will get slightly lowered. Maybe we'll swap it onto some alloys, and maybe we'll put a sportier sounding exhaust on it. 'Cause the only things that are going to make any more power on this will be exhaust and intake modifications. We're not going to go nuts. They do supercharger kits for this, but I'm going to sort of reinforce it's an 82 horsepower car when it's working properly. It weighs 1,000 kilos. It's a econo box, and it's the first car that paid £300 for. We're not going to go mad with it, but if we can get it working nicely, it drives really smoothly. It drives as you'd expect. There's no sort of feel from the steering as such. It's really dead in that respect, but it's a nice driving car, which is what it needs to be. So you can probably expect over the next month, I'm still going to be doing videos on the Audi. I've put an awful lot of work into the Audi over the last couple of months, so not all of that's out, but I've got that probably 95% of where it needs to be before I start to make sort of more power on that. I want to start cracking on with the Porsche more, but I've uncovered more issues with that, and rather than being able to do things piecemeal, I've got to go really big hitting on that. So Porsche stuff is in the works for the 924, but we'll be doing that. But you can expect to see this stuff more immediately because of this is the more urgent concern. Yeah, and that's it. Okay guys, thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the introduction to the Itasha Totty Wagon Jazz. And if you've got any comments, questions or feedback, leave them in the comments section down below.